For the first time, crypto services have landed at the center of a sanctions war, and China has hit back. On Wednesday, Beijing sanctioned 2 Lithuanian banks in retaliation for EU measures targeting Chinese financial institutions accused of helping Russia move money through crypto. So what exactly happened? Why did China single out Lithuania, and what does this mean for crypto's role in financial global warfare? Let's break it all down. On August the 13th, 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce announced it was sanctioning 2 Lithuanian banks. The sanctions ban Chinese individuals and organizations from doing any business with these banks. That means no transactions, no cooperation, and no partnerships. And here's the interesting part, because both banks have come out and admitted that they don't really do any business with China. One of the bank's CEO even said point blank, "We have no relationship with Chinese companies." So practically speaking, the sanctions won't change how these banks operate day to day. So instead, this looks like a symbolic move, one that sends out a political message rather than a kind of devastating economic blow. So why Lithuania of all places? Well, this goes beyond crypto because China and Lithuania have been at odds for years now. In 2021, Lithuania allowed Taiwan to open a representative office in Vilnius under the name Taiwan instead of Taipei, which was something that Beijing strongly opposed. And since then, China has downgraded diplomatic ties and restricted trade. And just last year, Lithuania expelled 3 Chinese diplomats for improper accreditation. So in other words, Lithuania has already become a convenient target for Beijing's retaliation. So by sanctioning Lithuanian banks, China can send a message to the entire European bloc without going after France, Germany, Italy, which are all countries that have far deeper economic ties. Now let's rewind. Why did the EU sanction Chinese banks in the first place? Well, back in July, the EU introduced its 18th round of sanctions against Russia, and among the measures, Brussels targeted 2 Chinese financial institutions. And the accusation here is that these banks were allegedly providing crypto services to Russia that allowed sanctioned Russian entities to sidestep restrictions. And for the EU, this was about plugging a loophole, because sanctioned Russian companies have been using crypto as a workaround to move money internationally. And the EU claimed that by facilitating this, the Chinese banks were undermining sanctions. Now, obviously, Beijing wasn't happy about this, and China's Commerce Ministry blasted the EU, calling its sanctions a violation of international law. And it demanded that Brussels correct its wrongdoing and stop harming Chinese interests. And now, just a few weeks later, China has retaliated, albeit in a way that's more symbolic than economically painful. So it's less about crippling Lithuanian banks and more about sending a message or a kind of warning shot that if you sanction Chinese institutions over crypto, then China will strike back. And this story highlights a bigger trend, which is the weaponization of finance. And we're seeing crypto companies being pulled directly into the geopolitical battlefield. For years, the US and EU have used sanctions to isolate Russia, and now crypto services, which were once thought of outside the system, are being policed and restricted just like traditional finance. And whenever sanctions hit, retaliation follows. And China's move shows that governments are willing to fight back with financial tools of their own. And even if the sanctions themselves don't bite economically, they do escalate the standoff. Now, the European Commission has said that it's studying China's move before deciding on its next steps, and officials have stressed that they want dialogue with Beijing, but they also want to enforce sanctions. Meanwhile, China has made it clear if Western powers target Chinese banks over crypto again, retaliation will continue. And this back and forth suggests one thing, and that is that crypto is no longer just a market or technology, it's now actually part of global power politics. So whether it's Russia trying to use crypto to bypass sanctions or China protecting its banks, digital assets are right in the middle of the storm. So what do you think? Is China's retaliation just symbolic posturing, or could this spiral into a deeper financial conflict between Beijing and Brussels? And what role do you think crypto will play as sanctions tighten worldwide? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear your take. And if you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next big update in the world of crypto regulation. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.